Today's episode is featuring Dennis Ledenkof. Now, he is the founder of Robosculptor. It is bootstrapped, so there's an interesting story behind that. This is usually a cost prohibitive technology, everything that's gone into it. And you can hear sort of the iterations from being too large to too expensive to cutting that down and making it more accessible while still targeting some of the more affluent households. However, also looking at the industry in interesting ways in terms of addressing the labor shortage and things of that nature. This is truly an episode that will also capture what it means to be a leader of a small team, but a very capable team, and what it looks like when bootstrapping and things of that nature. I do believe you'll enjoy this episode thoroughly. And without further ado, here's Dennis, founder of Robosculptor. Dennis, it is an absolute pleasure to have you here. I love speaking to entrepreneurs all the time, no matter who it is, where they come from, what part of the world they're in. But Dennis, it really is a pleasure to have you here. I'd like to start off by asking you, I was looking at some notes and I learned that you grew up between the border of Poland and Belarus. And you would observe people and making money, moving from the east to the west and this and that. Is that sort of what sparked your interest in entrepreneurship around that time?
Yeah, that's true, Philip. I grew up on the border between Belarus and Poland, and I learned my Polish, which I speak actually basic, from cartoons. It's uncommon for people to learn languages like that, so it's kind of bilingual. But I can remember watching the Smurfs from my cradle, So when I was 4 or something, and entrepreneurship started between different countries, and people from the West came to the East, bringing some new goods and with big trucks, and they were entrepreneurs, and they were making like big money. Another thing I can remember in trade. Yesterday, I met a boy who suggested to buy flowers. So he was like around 5 years old, and I remember. I recall when my grandma and me we came to the market to sell apricots in buckets that were grown up in her garden. And I think that's an experience when children learn how to trade, and that made me think that that made influence on my personality as well. So
Yeah, no, those moments can be life-shaping, 100%. I'm glad that you brought that up, and I can't imagine what it felt like to be full circle, where now you're in the marketplace and you see a kid selling, and you're like, "Oh, sure, here, I'll buy some flowers or what have you," and have them feel that success and that feeling, and how that shapes their mind for the future.
yeah, they evolve into the economy, right?
Yes, exactly. And so I think this is a perfect time now to sort of bring people up to speed with where you are now. I have in my notes and in my research here that you've actually, while you've been in business for a very long time, your current venture is actually Robosculptor, right? Now, with that said, what sort of led you into this market? Because I know that you're an inventor, and that was sort of always been your interest. You've always built things. In my notes, I know that you had a little carpenter group back in the day when you were a kid, and we'll get into that some more. But I want to stay in the present for a second and sort of explore Robosculptor and what was the genesis? What was the beginning of that idea?
20 years back, I started my business around 20 years back, and in leasing beauty equipment, which was tanning equipment actually. Then I brought some cosmetic body contouring devices into the market, and then I got the experience what fits to the market better than the current market offer, and we started to make our own brand. That's where experience came from. And 3 years back, looking for a distributor, I came to New York, and a company CEO who I was talking to was like, "Wow, the device is good, it's pretty effective, but it still requires people to work on it, and workforce labor cost in US is an expensive thing. In order to make a proper treatment, you need a proper specialist. Proper specialist doesn't work for free, and it is quite expensive to find such a specialist. It's quite hard thing to do. And why don't you invent a device that doesn't require a therapist, or is more independent from people, because it's like a hard thing to do physically as well. So doctors can make their work, can specialize when they're more experienced in I don't know, detecting right disease or invasive treatment or something, laser treatment. It requires experience more than body therapy. As well, body therapy is very effective means of for well-being, for being fit. So somebody needs to do that job, and that made me think: why don't we bring a robot into the technology? And collaborative robotics at that time was also in a certain level of its development. And we see the trend that the robotic components go down, the costs of robotic components go down, and the workforce shortage rises, and the demand and people of the therapists for the therapists in all industries, we see a lack of specialists. And here is a gap where a technology can make profit from. That's the main idea behind our project Robosculptor.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating that the cost prohibitive functions of the original concept were what shaped ultimately how you brought in a technology like robotics into it. It's a really fascinating decision to make as an entrepreneur, because you're faced with certain labor costs and certain labor markets, and you said, okay, if this is going to be the biggest obstacle, is there a solution? And robotics came into the picture. Now, that is a current technology that continues to evolve at rapid paces, along with large language models, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really fascinating that you've developed a technology that is of this time right now and taps into lifestyle culture, because you're right, 100% of the people are trying to look better, feel better, all of those things. So it's a really interesting thing, and I want to get more into like how you balance between your original vision and adapting to feedback. Have you had any feedback from the marketplace yet?
Yeah, true. We have had some feedback which we got from exhibition, from trade fairs we took part already at, and the feedback is: so is it safe? So 2 years back, last year we took part in GITEX in Dubai, and we haven't got that question already. So at first, people were curious about robotics and little skeptic. Is it safe? Is it secure? What is going to happen if I experience that? And after that, AI hype comes, and it becomes more common, more vision, more people see robots here and there and everywhere in our houses already, so they know what the behavior of robotics is. That the law number one, that the robot needs to be safe with a human, and such skeptic question we still get, but we work on that. We cover that with security system, with triple security system, with safety button and joysticks that you can operate. You can decrease the pressure of pressure sensor. That's the first point. But the second point is people see that the device is pretty big and it's pretty expensive. It means that every technology, every robotic technology, which every process that will be automated, it requires a long R&D process, much longer than the one with software. And sometimes it's it requires investment, and it requires also more space. The processes, the robots needs their eyes, which detect the situation, and the system in robotics operates accordingly the changing environment. So that makes a robot makes an automation, a mechanism, a robot. It corresponds with the reality and acts accordingly. So it's quite. Our device was quite big, quite large. So we decreased in our second version a part of it. Now it's 30% more cost, more space saving. That's the one. Yeah, that's basically, and it's pretty expensive. So the target price is going to be. So we envision from $100,000 to $200,000, which is quite a big amount to decide for. But if we see for the economy, it is gonna. We will see a payback according to our business model after 10, 12 months of operation. And of course, it's going to be effective for such companies who already do a consistent client stream, because it's an automation. It's economically beneficial only if you already have your processes with current processes and client stream already done. So it's an improvement. It's another stage for industry 4.0.
Right. No, yeah, I think it's interesting. Now I understand a little bit more. This is a business to business purchase, right? So the businesses who are already running something or the body sculpting can now take a look at the way they're managing their labor and their costs and invest in a technology like this to automate and offset some of that, and to essentially test whether or not this is the future of the market. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's true. But it can be very interesting, and we see the interesting market where there was no market before. Some people, so everybody, I think everybody likes body therapy, body massage, but not everybody goes to take a treatment. And one of the concerns is the privacy. Actually, some people do not want to be touched by a stranger, and the robot can make a pretty effective professional level body treatment with no body, with no human interaction. I mean, it's hygienic. It's keeps your privacy. It can be quite attractive in Arabic countries, where privacy and gender privacy is an essential thing of the behavior and of the culture. And such a device can also be used in wealthy houses for private use.
Yeah, you're right. And in that market, there's definitely a consumer interest, and I can definitely see that selling. And that's an interesting and niche market, which is good because that means they're early adopters. I'm not sure if you've come across the book Crossing the Chasm, but I think that is a perfect place to begin the marketing and the initiatives of stepping into the market there. And we can get into that later. I'm actually fascinated by the fact that you've done this. Now, have you bootstrapped this, or did you seek out investment for this? Because if you did, I'd love if you could share some advice to anyone who's considering stepping into robotics in general and what it looks like raising capital for something like that.
Yeah, we are bootstrapping for the moment.
Wow.
And we see a lot of hurdles for in fundraising. Why fundraising? Actually, because we are self-funded and we have a certain economy. But funding from the at first gives you more security, more chances to survive and move. And accelerate actually to hire a proper team, a more professional team that you can do with your own funds. Hardware requires more investment than software, because it's not only development stage and people, it's also hardware acquisition and parts acquisition, and it's more longer iterationally. It's more longer process of every iteration is longer.
Yeah.
But funds give you more chances to go to multiple markets at the same time. And we have experienced a trend that not every fund or not every investment is aware how to invest in hardware projects, because hardware projects, they develop, they go on their own pathway. So it's a different track. And it needs to be a proper investment who understands how to invest in deep tech and in robotics. And I think the next trend after AI is robotics, because actually robotics plus AI is a very perspective junction, so a connection. It makes it automates the process, how machines can see. Actually, you don't need to build a proper program. You just can launch artificial intelligence onto some with a certain task and connect it with a robotic machine and create a proper structure, mechanical structure, in order to get the crop, or like to I think the robotics in harvesting is very good thing to do. So
Yeah, no, I can see that. There's definitely the next steps in the evolution of where investment is going is definitely going to be in something like vision AI and how it runs through an API into a robotics structure and what that looks like out in the world in real time. I am definitely excited to see that. And I see now where your vision is and how far ahead you're looking into your process. And the fact that you've bootstrapped this is incredible. I can only imagine. I mean, you think of making a new energy drink or something, a consumer product, and the warehousing, the overhead costs are insane. So when you bring robotics into that, you're almost like Tesla in the sense that you have this manufacturing side and this process, and there's a lot of machinery involved, and then warehousing all that. So I can only imagine what your operation looks like. And as a solopreneur right now, doing a lot of that bootstrapping, it is intense, man. You have my respect. I can only imagine the amount of pressure you feel on a regular basis with that kind of runway, you know?
Yeah, thanks, Philip. But having a right team is a big part of it. It's not me who makes it. It's actually definitely the team that is supporting and that is going common the same way and supporting each other. It's a very important thing to live together. And so my job is to create a right atmosphere, a right connection between people. We have in our team many people that used to work in big enterprises, and they got burned out by those enterprises, because you go to work all the day and then you do somebody else's job, and you go to your boss and the boss said, I don't want it, make it other way, and go another. And we are like homemade company, and it's and you get quite professional, educated people, better for better conditions than you can get in the market, because it's a cozy company, and going forward with your previous words, everything that can be automated will be automated in the future. Is definitely the trend, but the hurdle in robotics is that every task is very narrow, and automation of every single task will require a lot of human human power and a lot of efforts. So it needs to be economically proven that this certain task will have economic potential to be automated. Sorry.
Yeah, no, yeah. I love that you brought up how important you see workplace culture and the fact that you've been fortunate, like you said, to have a solid team that was simply burnt out everywhere else. And it sounds like they're very happy to be working on something, number one, that is cutting edge technology, but also important for the future of everything that we're doing. I can only imagine the sense of purpose and mission you all have as a team. For me, that's exciting. I wonder how you view marketing and communications and social media as a team like that, because that has to be incredibly important to what you're doing in order to help people understand what it is you're working on.
Social media is something that has broken for the moment in our company. So we're improving it because you need to communicate with the public and bring PR at every day, every second that you have traction and you have such achievement in technology, etc., etc. Sometimes it's not interesting. It's just not interesting. Nothing happens for the past year that we can bring to the public, or something that we can bring to the public will be covered by intellectual property and needs as a subject for our patents. So we need to decide first what we can discover and what is an invention that we cannot unveil until until the product is ready. Otherwise, we will not be able to protect it, and that's the value of the technology. So that's basically some limitation that we have for social media. But of course, I'm trying to tell about certain steps of the achievement and make some videos how it is going, etc., etc.
No, you're right. 100% right. That's often overlooked by a lot of people, is that some of the stuff that you're working on, you simply can't talk about. I know I've seen a lot of, like, if we were borrow, they say sometimes to solve a problem, you borrow for another industry. Sometimes the solution you're looking for already exists somewhere else, right? And I don't know if this is applicable, but I think it's a curious case. I talk to a lot of like iOS developers online, and a lot of them like to build in public. And what that means for them is, let's say they're using Swift UI, which is the language for iOS development on iPhones. They'll say, oh, I'm trying to figure out the problem on the viewfinder. And then they build a community of other iOS developers that are super supportive and super interested, sometimes even offer solutions, right? And that's one way of creating that thing. So the thing is, though, iOS development may or may not need a patent, whereas what you're developing, right, is on a far larger scale involving robotics and so many other technologies, all to create this cohesive, incredibly cutting edge product. And that is a huge challenge for communications. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because someone else who might be considering creating a startup on the level that you are and bootstrapping it and wishing they had the fortune of having a powerful team, a solid, strong, educated, and yet motivated team like yours, at some point they're going to come to that conclusion of, we need to focus on marketing. And maybe in the future, as you begin to figure that out as well for the communications there, you'll lead the way for others to also follow what communications looks like there. And I'm going to be interested in following you on your social media to see how it is you decide to solve that problem. In fact, even Gary Vaynerchuk, one of the more famous social media influencers, would say sometimes the very problem you're trying to solve, like that, how do we communicate this on social media, is interesting social media content, right? Because it's like, I'm trying to figure it out. There are things I can't talk about, but what I can tell you today is this, right? And that itself is compelling because it's a view inside behind the curtain. And that's all somebody needs. That's what this conversation is. So for me, you have my vote. I'm going to be following you to check that out. With that said, I want to roll out the red carpet for you. And do you have anything interesting that you want the listeners to know about what you're currently doing? Or is there somewhere in particular you want them to follow you?
Yeah, everybody is welcome to follow me on LinkedIn. Thank you, Philip, for invitation and for bringing words on it. You're most welcome. One funny thing happened to me. So I visited a special event for aesthetic an aesthetic branch, because one of our IC ICPs is Med Spa, and I was presenting the project at some booth and telling what do you think about it. So here is a technology, maybe you can work together. And somebody told me, oh, I know that guy. And I was like, it is me. I'm following him on LinkedIn. And I said, yeah, hello, it is me. So nice to meet you. And I was like, so the industry already knows what we are doing, and it's quite narrow professional world, and quite useful to have a right person on the right time to whom you can talk and communicate and ask some specific. So some people are magicians, and for them, their job is just common. And every year, when you have birthday of the company, I'm telling that some persons are among us are like magicians, or have their own magic power of, I don't know, creation, something that I cannot just tell how they're doing it. So it's but for those people it's quite easy. It's a common job to do. So they are professionals in that. And maybe there is something where I'm professional at, rather than creating such atmosphere and bringing the company straightforward to other steps, etc., etc.
Yeah, no, there's definitely
but I
some
like those
magic.
people.
There's some
Yeah.
magic to the way you're talking about your team. And I think even that in itself may be a marketing slant. I can't help it. I'm a digital marketer by trade. So a lot of the things that you're saying, I can see the potential of maybe even highlighting, one team member of the week doing their magic again. That's a whole thing. The magic of robotics with team member X, team member Y, team member Z. I can see that. And so before we close things out, I'd like to invite you to all the listeners who are listening. Here you are, someone on the cutting edge as an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. You've done this for a long time, and you decided to bootstrap one of the most expensive and cost prohibitive industries ever. And you're fortunate enough to have a solid team. If you had the knowledge that you have right now, back when you first started this venture, what would you have done differently, and how can the listener benefit from that?
Actually, there is one point that I fail in my experience. I got my MBA too late, so I think that could save me 10 more years, 10 plus years,
Wow.
or something. But I think that MBA education, someone can say that it's quite outdated education for the moment. Of course, you need to study something to learn something actual, but academic knowledge that we get from structured education is very important for those industry and for the business you are going to work in. Is it investment? Is it operational processes, sales? Is it marketing? Something you definitely require academic knowledge. So that's the main point. You just better don't miss. And some people can avoid it, of course, and are successful without that. But my point is, where science is, you definitely need academic knowledge.
I love it. You're 100% right.
And if you make entrepreneurship a science, and if you make entrepreneurship a science, so there is an education course for that.
Yes, I love that. I'm a big proponent of continuing education as an adult. Some people think after a certain age, you don't need to learn anymore, but I agree with you. If you want to be on the cutting edge, you need to understand not only the history of the foundational knowledge of business, and maybe you can learn it outside, but for some people, those are the exceptions to the rule. For other people, a little structure goes a long way. And then from there, building on that foundation with continuing education, it's just, you give the situation that you're in the respect it deserves and the attention it deserves, the dedication it deserves. And I really appreciate the lessons that you've imparted in this conversation, whether it's valuing your team and understanding everyone's superpowers and including your own, and understanding that as a leader, the ambiance and the atmosphere that you create is the most essential to the success, especially when living on the cutting edge and bootstrapping, because that kind of leadership is going to be absolutely essential. Also, being a champion of education, that's super important, because some people do laugh at it and some people say you don't need it. And you're right, there are exceptions to every rule, but at the end of the day, it's tried and true, and it does help. Otherwise, it wouldn't be around. Right. And then the other thing is, you've invited people to visit you on LinkedIn as you continue along this journey. For me, it is an absolute pleasure to have had the chance to talk to you. Again, what you've done, what you've accomplished, and being multilingual, and here you are jumping internationally on a podcast to communicate this. Huge accomplishments. I can't wait to follow you and learn more about what you've done in your company with Robosculptor. So with that said, thank you so much for stopping by, Dennis.
Thank you, Philip. Let me have one more invitation to our demo office in Dubai. If you live in Dubai and if you travel to Dubai, please come along. We'll deliver a treatment, body treatment for you.